is March 25th, 2026 at 6 p.m. My name is Ray Lambert. This is a meeting of the Economic Development, Employee Economic Development. This time I'd like to have a forum. We'll with the City Manager, Andrew Munoz. We'll with Assistant Executive Director, Charlie Jimenez Nelson. With Temp Specialist, Michelle Tackett. We'll with Director Stephen Moore. Director Bernadette Herrera. Director Ben Lambert. Director Ryan Shoemaker. Attorney Daniel Centine. Vice President Randy Blewett, and Wilson County News for Rachel Baker. Michelle, next day's invitation, please.
Father in heaven, we ask that you, for your wisdom as we begin this meeting, we acknowledge that we need your wisdom and insights, and we welcome your presence among us. Guide us in our discussions and decisions, helping us to seek what is best for the city of Floresville and all involved. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Pledge, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. This time, do we have any board member comments? Very well, thank you. Do we have any public comments? Should be a quick meeting. That was a pretty late. Very well, item 6, presentation and discussion. Attorney Danielson, need interpretation of the service agreement with the city of Floresville.
There goes your quick meeting.
Hey.
Let the lawyer speak. So all that has changed, just to make me feel like I'm up in the pulpit.
About as close as you're gonna get.
Okay, so we had a brief discussion in closed session last time, and I wanted to take the opportunity to have this discussion in open session to walk through the services agreement, because one of the items on the agenda was the possible notice of termination of the services agreement. So the reason why I wanted to do this, and just for full disclosure, President Lambert and I had a good meeting with City Manager Munoz this week to go over some of these things as well, but I'll get more into that in a little bit. So one of the things about this services agreement, when my firm was brought in and engaged by the city and the EDC, nobody who's sitting on this board was on this board, okay? And only Mayor Pro Tem Jimenez was on the city council, who's still on the city council. So everybody who's bound by this agreement, we have one person between the council and the FEDC board who actually was there for the start of it and knows the history of it. So I wanted to go through it. So when we came on board, we walked into a situation where we had to do a quick evaluation of several personnel matters. And one of the things that we discovered was that the way that the FEDC and the city were dealing with employees could be done better, okay? So I'm not gonna say it was being done wrong, it was not being done illegal, anything like that, but it could be done better because there was a general lack of oversight. And the model that I had always followed elsewhere was a services agreement, a formal services agreement between the corporation and the authorizing unit, which is the municipality, that spells out everybody's duties, obligations, and allows the corporation to pay the city to have the oversight and have the HR, have all the things that employees need, all the technology support, the space, everything overseen by the city, because that's what cities do, right? They're already in that business. A volunteer board that serves a corporation who have full-time jobs themselves and come to a meeting once a month are not necessarily in the best position to provide the oversight that a city can provide. And at that point in time, in the history of the FEDC and the city, I believed, and my firm believed, that was the best solution to the issues, to get everything on track and to get everything better organized. Get systems in place where all of your personnel records, all your personnel files are kept by the city because they're the employer of record. Doesn't diminish the oversight of the board. And that's what we do in the bylaws, and that's what we do in the services agreement. We spell out the roles of both parties with regard to employees. In many of the cities where we represent the city in the Economic Development Corporation, those employees are not 100% paid for by the Economic Development Corporation. They also have a percentage of their salaries paid by the city, because what their department is the Department of Economic Development. And if they're paid somewhat by the city, then they can do the 380 agreements, they can do the TERS agreements, they can do all those other things that the city actually is the entity for, not the EDC, but they primarily do the EDC work. And I have that model in probably half a dozen or more cities where they're not 100% compensated by the EDC. Again, you pay a portion of a salary for the city manager, you pay a portion of the salary for the finance director, because they are providing services, oversight services, or in the instance of the finance director, the actual finance work of the corporation is done by the city's finance director. So what does it look like if you're not in the services agreement? We talked about briefly, you have to have somebody provide those services. Because again, a volunteer board who mostly have full-time jobs are not gonna be the ones doing the finance records, doing the HR records and all those things, coming up with personnel policies. And so you would have to outsource that. That was the same option then, and that board liked the idea of entering into the agreement and letting the city do those things. So to make that happen, we actually had to have conflict waivers. My firm had to have a conflict waiver from the corporation and the city to allow us to negotiate that between the parties. Because if either party doesn't like what's being negotiated, we can't help either party. We have to bow out and not represent either one. Those are the rules. And so we had to have them waive the conflict so we could get to work on making this happen. And it was a multi-step process, and it was not easy. And we had joint workshops, and we had another joint workshop, and it went before the board a couple of times, went to the city a couple of times. So it was a long process to get this agreement. I mean, I wrote this agreement, and it has been renewed at least once. I'm not saying it's perfect. By giving notice of termination, the idea was the same thing that the city has done previously, or I've done on behalf of the city previously with consultants, for example, is you provide notice of termination when you have a lengthy time left on an agreement that you're unhappy with. And as we talked about, this board wasn't real happy with this agreement. So the notice of termination is a way to force a party back to the table to renegotiate before that termination date. But what I'm telling you is that that's not going to be necessary based on our conversations with the city manager. But in walking through, let me walk through this quickly though. So there's been some misconceptions or some misinterpretations in my estimation as to some of the terms in this agreement. If you go, everybody should have a copy of it. If you go through it, it clearly talks about hiring of the FEDC employees, assigned employees, the evaluation, and the termination. And the idea here was, yeah, it is, and I think, and the Andrew would say, is like, it's a little loosely written. Well, that was by design, because the idea was, you don't want to have it so fixed in stone that there's not room for some interpretation. But because they're city employees, the city can't give FEDC final control on all these things. So the way these are written is that the board has input on these things. The board will have input on who's assigned to the FEDC, what the evaluation is, what the termination is. And so the city manager at the time, Andy Jocelyn, and the board president at the time, David Obosky, worked out what that would look like. What does it look like for us to have input on the evaluation? What does it look like? And they were fine with it. Some of it was incorporated into the bylaws which were also updated at the same time. Under duties, this is where the city's agreeing that the city will do all these things on behalf of the corporation. And you can see it's a lengthy list. They're going to do the budget. They're going to negotiate, administer, and monitor all contracts. The idea being that your employees who are now city employees are going to be doing a lot of these, but some of these things are going to have to be done by either the city manager or assistant city manager or finance director. And then when you look at in ensuring that all the responsibilities and duties as specified by the board and accepted by the city are carried out accordingly, and it goes on. 14 different things that the city is responsible for doing on this contract. Again, when we say city in this contract, you're mostly talking about your employees who have been working not for the city, but for the corporation, who are now going to be city employees. So we took the duties that those employees had and we rolled them over into this same agreement and listed them under the city because those employees are now city employees. So I hope that makes sense. It wasn't that now the city's doing things that weren't already being done. These are things that were being done by these employees. It's just that they were not city employees. So we had to do a whole new job description on the city side. The city had to agree to that because you're creating a position in the city's budget, even though you're funding it. They still have to approve, hey, yes, this is our employee. And then you have the list of what the FEDC agrees and acknowledges. The big thing here was that you were going to finally have an employer of record. And the reason why that's an issue is that we still have some, I can't get into all of it, we still have some ongoing litigation. That's a big thing in the ongoing litigation is who is the actual employer of record, right? And so the FEDC and the city are both in that particular litigation because of the lack of clarity that was in place. The idea behind this was let's get the clarity so that there's no confusion and we don't have to leave it up to a court to decide. So there is a key component here. This paragraph after what the FEDC agrees to and acknowledges, the number of positions, job descriptions, salary and salary range for the administrative and support positions shall be within the discretion of the FEDC board in consultation with the city. Decisions relating to salary increases, if any, for the FEDC assigned employees are in the discretion of the FEDC board in consultation with the city, and et cetera, et cetera. The board was adamant about that. Now, putting on, I'm not the city attorney anymore, but putting on the city's hat, the city has their employee pay schedules, right? They have their employee pay plan, they have employees that are banded based on tenure or position. And so when a city sees these, not just Floresville, but any city I deal with, and they see these, that's one of the concerns, is like, hold on a second. If you pay this employee who does these tasks this much money, over here on the city side, it can create havoc. That's why you have to consult with the city on those things, because it has to make sense in the larger pay plan that's in place for the city. I think I'm saying that, right? I think you would agree that it has to fit into the plan, so that's why there's consultation. It doesn't mean that there's veto power, but sometimes it means that you're going to take more than one step to get to where you want to be because it needs to fit into the step plan that's in place. So under that same paragraph number 2, this is where I don't have any control. This is the policy decision where the city comes up with the number that the board would have to agree to on what that annual amount of funding is. And that annual amount of funding, there's things that it includes and doesn't include, and I know we talked about that at the last meeting. I don't have all the answers for you. The finance director would have all those answers for you, but it certainly covers all the salary and benefits of the FEDC assigned employees. And then it also is going to include a percentage of the city manager's salary for the oversight, because he is over those employees, the direct supervisor over those employees, and also the finance director. And beyond that, I don't know who all else has any percentages. Maybe the city secretary, she does posting, I don't know. But there may be other numbers that go into that as well. As far as, if there's any technology budgeted that is whatever, if we pay it through the city. What's not included in that number is legal, because your bills, at the moment, you're billed separately, and even before, you're billed separately from my firm for services rendered for the EDC. That's the next paragraph, so let me touch on that real quick. The way this was set up at the time, I was the attorney for both the city and the FEDC. It doesn't have to be like that. In the past, it wasn't like that, then it was like that, and it hasn't been. I mean, there are many cities where we're both. There's some cities where we're not. There's some cities where I have, like in the city of Sidlow, for example, I'm the city attorney. My firm is Frank Garza, who's with the same firm as Lee. He's our EDC attorney there. And there's other cities where I'm not the EDC attorney. There's some cities where I'm the EDC attorney, not the city attorney. So there's different patterns. It doesn't matter all over the place. The big thing is that the city attorney and the corporation attorney have to work collaboratively. They have to be on the same page on the deals that get done. Everything we do here, remember, everything that we do has to be approved. The city has to approve, the city council has to approve every program and expenditure of the corporation by law. And that can take on different forms, but they must approve it. Every program and expenditure of the corporation, they must approve our bylaws, they're in control of our articles of incorporation, and they're in control of the board appointments. Right, so the city is the authorizing unit, they do have a lot of control, so it works best when it works collaboratively. So on the note of legal services, I will tell you, this is my last meeting, as FEDC attorney. I've already advised the board president of that, I've already advised the city manager that, always been my intention. I stuck around as long as I did because I felt like a Chick-fil-A deal was imminent, and I'm not speaking out of turn because everybody knows, it's like been all over the place, you know, but it hasn't happened yet, so it's a good time for me to step away. And under your agreement though, you don't have to do anything right now, because under the agreement, the city attorney is the one who provides services by default. So that's what I was doing when I was city attorney. Y'all had the right to hire somebody else, but I was providing services for both because we had those conflict waivers. So now, Lee Green will step in, or I think her partner Frank Garza may be the one that steps in and start providing those services until, the further decisions can be made on what needs to be done. The joint economic development programs is what I alluded to earlier, because it's important that those do happen. And typically it's the FEDC assigned employees who work the hardest or oversee those things in conjunction with the city, when the city has, initiatives that they want to see now. We haven't done 380 agreements for the city when I've been here, and there's multiple reasons for that I won't get into. But every city manager and every attorney has to make their own decisions on what they want to see the city, how they want to do those things and whatever. But when those happen, it makes sense for the same team to be working on those things. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of this agreement. The term of termination, y'all are familiar with, there's 60 days, 60 days notice you can terminate this thing. We originally put that on the agenda tonight. It's my recommendation you don't take action on the item later that talks about sitting notice of termination. One of the things that I will state in my time here is that, every time I've had a new council or any new council elected, and like I said, there's only one that remains from when I started here, the board has changed. So this board wasn't the board I was working with when I came on board. It wasn't the board I negotiated this contract with. It's a new board, and the board continues to turn over and get new members. We are a little over a month out from an election. The tradition here has been in the past that no big decisions like that take place ahead of an election. And so I would recommend that, we'll just kind of back off of any reason to do. I don't think there is a reason to do that either, because after meeting with Mr. Munoz, I'm convinced that he's certainly willing to work with this board to accomplish everything that y'all want to accomplish, the things that I'm aware of that you're wanting to accomplish. I think that we have a good meeting between he and President Lambert that can certainly get that going. There's also several board appointments that come up in May and June. I think 4 seats on this board are up in May and June. So the new council maybe being elected in May, and then seats coming up, it's my recommendation that status quo through the election, through those board appointments, and let that new board and that new council decide what path they want to take. Maybe have that joint workshop that we talked about a while back. So, and this agreement, it may not be perfect and it may need to be tweaked, but in my opinion, it still remains the best oversight tool that the corporation has, unless y'all really want to be full-time employers of folks, so. Any questions on the agreement? All right.
Thank you. Item B, Alamo College's Workforce Solutions and FEDC Trade School Initiative. Charlie?
Yes, so we met on March 18th with Dan Wallace. He's a Community and Employer Partners Manager with Workforce Solutions Alamo. And he provided us job posting analytics for Wilson County. He couldn't drill it down to just Floresville, which we then forwarded to Palo Alto College. It's something they're going to review, and we're going to continue to meet with Palo Alto College to discuss the trade school initiative, and we we'll press on with it after we get, information back from Priscilla Camacho, and she's the Chief Legislative Industry and External Relations Officer at Palo Alto College, and we've been working with her since, I think it's 2024, so, we continue with that initiative.
Any questions for Charlotte? Good. Item C, revision of FEC attorney, excuse me, in response to legal challenge to the operation of the market. State Norton, man.
I don't believe there's any need to go through that at this point.
Very well. I'm in agreement with you. Item 7, discussion and possible actions concerning 7A is when we're talking about discussion and possible action to provide notice of termination of the services agreement with the city of Floresville. After visiting with Dan and also with the city manager, I think that's something that we should table. I don't think that's necessary at this time for your y'all's decision.
I'll make a motion to table item 7A.
Motion by Ben. Second by Ryan. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. 6-0, thank you. 7B, discussion of possible action to approve the proposal for the FEDC marketing campaign by Chris Scott of Vanilla Moon Marketing.
So we did not obtain, her proposal as of yet, and, I suggest that we table this for our April meeting.
Have a motion.
Make a motion to table 7B.
Motion by Ben, second by Rita. Everybody, all raise your right hand. 6-0, thank you. Seven C, discussion of possible action to prepare and issue a request for qualifications RFQ for professional finance, HR, and benefit services for the FEDC. Again, with this one is something we discussed with the city manager, myself, and our attorney. And at this time, I think that would be something we should table as well, but y'all's decision.
Make a proposal to table 7C.
A motion by Bernadette. Second. Second by Randy, all in favor, please raise your right hand. 6-0, thank you. Which was council meetings with this time?
I'm sorry?
Which was council meetings with this time?
Amen.
7D, discussion and possible action to prepare and issue a request of qualifications RFQ for architectural plans for the historic power plant and business plaza project. We have a little information that Charlotte had given me today on this. I think we, again, y'all's decision, but I think we need to look at that. That was an architect that engaged, but what he did, we don't really know the extent of that. I think we need to look into that before you make a decision, either to stay with this gentleman or look with someone else. But again, the information came in today, so no one's seen. That's y'all's decision again as well.
I mean, if you go after an RFQ, does that mean you have to, is it more information better than none?
You can actually go after it, which he'll still have the time to evaluate what he's done as well. I would think he's probably gonna sign up for it as well. So there's nothing wrong with.
And there's no cost association with
Not at all.
going after an RFQ, right? I mean, I'd rather have more options than just one.
I agree.
Mr. President, if I may.
Sure.
Just a legal question. If he's still under contract for these services and we go out for RFQ, will we have to issue a termination notice to him? So how would that work?
Maybe.
It was 2023.
In 2023, he was contracted to do this, and he's now provided the plans?
No, I have the plans. The only portion that we continued through was the demolition of the corner building. And when our EDA grant did not get funded, we didn't pursue.
So, I mean, it sounds like he's done his work out of everything that's in place.
Okay,
I don't think there's anything in place, from what I heard today.
all right, thank you.
Now, is this just gonna be plans of improvement or plans of just figuring out what's there now?
I think you need both. I mean, I think you need to make a plan, and you know what you have, but at some point, we need to start moving forward. It's been stagnant for a while.
You have to put it in the RFQ, so whoever, when you put together the RFQ, they need to know specifically what they're going to be doing, so you can judge their qualifications. We're gonna wanna know, based on like what the scope is that y'all wanna provide them or expect them to do, you wanna know what their experience is in actually doing those kind of designs or whatever that might be. So I think the art is in crafting of that RFQ, and I think before you actually issue it, you're gonna wanna see the RFQ. And, you know, I'm not sure how much, I don't know what your experience is in putting those together, but I mean, you're gonna wanna put it together to achieve, I mean, y'all two should probably work together and put it together as specifically what you're trying to achieve. And then research, you know, what architectural firms have experience in that area and target them with that RFQ.
But I guess what is your intention? You wanna keep the exterior walls and the facade the same?
I
Are you
think
guys
we're
looking
looking
for
for
some?
recommendations, actually, but I don't, is that near you,
Yeah.
You,
Not me.
selection.
You know, we're just trying to get started, just get off base again, and we're sort of going about it all day. Trying to get off base.
Sure. The only reason I ask is, I mean, it's in the historic downtown. I don't know if you guys are gonna try to pursue future historic designation of the building or.
We researched that, and the idea of we're trying to do, obviously, we're trying to look at.
I got it.
Okay. Because it used to be ice in the fun,
Right.
there's a lot of history with that.
Right.
The idea of, there's, in fact, you know, we kinda had a planner come through at one time, maybe the first one. Bruce met him, we worked closely with him, and there are some pretty neat ideas that can be incorporated into the whole scheme of things.
Sure.
Just nobody's ever collected all the thoughts, and then when the grant deal fell through, the feds, and everything just kind of hit the floor.
Okay. It gives me a little bit more insight. So when we work together to develop the scope, we have a little bit more definitive way of what you guys wanna do.
But the intent all along has been to preserve the integrity of the building as far as its historical value.
Okay.
But also able to utilize for whether it be obtaining sales tax or something, that the building is being used, not just sitting there, right? I think for a while it's just been there.
Right.
And how we can use it to best suit the citizens of this community, I guess, is what I want to do. So I want to understand its structural integrity now, but I also want to get the ball rolling so we're not just sitting by for the next year and nothing's being done, right? Feel like we have the funds to do it now. I'm sure we'll have to obtain some grants if we can. We can't obtain grants if we don't have all this other information, right?
Right.
And so if we don't start now, we won't start at all, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
I think if you take a look at the engineering assessment, you couple that with the initial concept sketches, and you take into consideration the proof of concept that I think we actually gained during Peanut Festival, you can really put together a good scope of work.
Sure.
Because those three things together actually start to answer your questions.
Right.
Whereas when we first bought it, it was just an empty building, but now we've actually used it, we've seen what it can do. The demo and the engineering assessment tell us what it's got good bones, and then the concept sketch gave us some really good ideas what we can use it for, and what the outlay would look like, and how it would fit into the community plan.
Okay. Oh, definitely. I like it.
Yeah, what I would like to do, in the short time that we have left, before the election does come, if we can get, you know, when this, joint workshop with the city happens, I would like to have the input from the council as well, because, I mean, the decisions that we make here also affect them, and so I think if we can have some sort of communication with them and say, hey, what are y'all hearing from the constituents? Maybe it's different than from what we're hearing. So if we can add that to the agenda, if we happen to have one of those in this time, before the election comes around.
No, definitely. I'll put it on the agenda, in April. Or is that an issue? Yeah.
Thank you.
More comments or questions?
After hearing all this, city manager, what would you recommend that we go out for an RFQ? Would you recommend we hold back for a minute or two?
No, I mean, like I said at the last meeting, I've seen the video, I'm in full support of what you guys have planned for that property.
Yeah.
I like what you want to do with the old Phelps building, I'm all for it. I have no problem putting it on the agenda and getting up there at the podium, supporting you guys 100% on this project, and talking to council. I mean, I think it's a worthwhile project, I think you guys have a great idea. I think we need to push it forward, and you're right, I mean, we need to do something with it, because
Yeah,
it's only gonna cost us more if it continues to deteriorate.
you're exactly right, yeah. Well, let's go ahead, I'll make a motion to approve item 7D, an RFQ for architectural plans for the Old Phelps building and abbreviation.
Motion by Ben,
I'll
second
second.
by Angela, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 6-0, thank you. 7E, discussion and possible action to place Michelle Tackett in the position of FEDC Assistant Executive Director effective March 30, 2026. Have any citizens' comments with that? Board?
Yeah, I'm gonna give my 2 cents, I think, with the outgoing of our interim executive director, Charlotte, I think that, we don't want a lapse in business that happens here, and Michelle's been here for a while now, whether she was a part of the board or acting as an employee. I think, Michelle's learned a lot, and I would make a motion to approve item 7E.
A motion by Ben,
Second.
second by Randy, all in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes 5
I'll abstain.
and 1 abstain. Thank you. Item 8, executive closed sessions. Executive session in accordance with Texas Government Code Chapter 551. The Florida Economic Development Corporation may at any time during the meetings close the meeting and hold an executive session pursuant to the Texas Open Meeting Act, codified in Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, which permits closed meetings pursuant to Section 551 for the purpose of consulting with attorneys, Section 551.074 deliberating about personal matters, Section 551.076 deliberation about security devices, Section 551.084 regarding exclusions of witnesses in connection with an investigation, Section 551.086 deliberative of economic development and negotiations, and Section 551.088 considered during the open meeting if it does go to the executive session. The Floresville Economic Development Corporation may deliberate in executive session, vote on the matter in open session, and announce for it in the minutes. The time is now 6:33. So I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. President, you need to read the matters that we're gonna discuss.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So they're on the bottom of that, or the top of the next page. The 2 litigation matters, and then you all have on there, personnel matters.
Very well. 8A, the board will meet executive session pursuant to Section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code for the purpose of consulting with attorneys in its Benjamin T. Reed versus City of Floresville and Floresville Economic Development, Civil Action Number 524-CD-701-JP-HJP. Also, Benjamin T. Reed versus Texas Workforce Commission, City of Floresville and Floresville Economic Corporation, Civil Action Number CVW2602072. Do those, we can do that with them, right? What's it done?
We can do all this.
Okay, very well. 8IB, the board of meeting executive session pursuant to Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code to deliberate including discussion of the interim executive director's resignation. FEDC interim executive director's resignation. Item 9, action items from executive closed session.
No, don't worry about that later.
All right. Have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Randy. Second by Ryan. Yes, sir. 6:35.